And we're back.
And we're back.
Oh, that was great.
All right.
Welcome back to our amazing 4th of July
celebration
of gaming
beer.
and beer.
If I had a hot dog, I'd eat it.
All right. What were we talking about?
So we're going to talk about why is it that there's now this kind of growing divide, and you know, in terms of the West versus the East, in terms of what kind of games they enjoy. Why is it happening?
Well,
because it wasn't that way before.
Perhaps when the Japanese develop, I don't know. It's a good point.
Is this in other words? Tastes? Is it okay? Changing taste happens to be a cultural formation. So my question to you is this a cultural formation? Is this a business formation? What is this? I mean, what's really causing this? Is it a cultural difference in the audience? Is it a cultural difference in the development community? Is it a business difference where, you know, the audience has been underestimated by a particular, you know, target audience or whatever?
ADD at Work and PSA Nightshade have similar points about demographics and going mainstream. You definitely have more gamers now than you've ever had.
Yes. Where?
Well, definitely in America. I don't know about Japan. I think gaming's always been big across all lines in Japan.
That's what I mean. So when you say mainstream, it's always been mainstream in Japan.
Pretty much.
Now it's getting mainstream in America and getting big in the West largely, especially with the Wii, which is Nintendo, but you know.
Right.
Just throwing it out there.
But you have a lot of FPSs and a lot of sports games.
As the
West,
bestsellers.
As bestsellers.
For at least last year.
Yeah. FIFA is one of the biggest games in Europe, I know.
It is. It's huge. Especially with Euro Cup, the Bankrupt Cup.
It's terrible. Anyway.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. But yeah, no, I think... So if I'm going to make the point here, I think it is a cultural difference. Mm-hmm. And I think video games have taken on a little bit of a different cultural tone than they used to. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between something like Defender and then on up to something like Donkey Kong or Pac-Man or, you know, any of the kind of early games and Call of Duty Modern Warfare? If you look at those two things, I think most people would look at that and say those are two completely different things. They have almost nothing to do with each other.
Very different genres,
right? But forget that for a second and just look at the experience, right? If you look at a film from the 20s and you look at a film from today, the only difference is that there's color, right? I mean, it's not. In other words, the medium has changed in terms of how it functions, but it's really just a screen with people moving on them, right? Versus
but the
video
content's
game.
Definitely changed.
It has, but my point is, and I'm not making a point about the flatness of the development of film here. What I'm trying to say is that, by and large, the experience of a film hasn't changed since its inception. By and large, the experience of video games is completely different than it ever has been before, which is one of the reasons why it was able to go mainstream.
And as Newmark says, Japan has stuck mainly to the same genres. So are you saying that they're kind of stagnating in that?
What I'm saying is that they enjoy,
like it was new and interesting when these Japanese style RPGs.
But that was the model. But that was the model. The model was the Japanese game. That was the only thing anybody knew. But the problem is, it was something new to the West when it first happened, and that's why it exploded.
Did we get tired of it?
But it when you say exploded, you have to realize that you're talking about, again, minuscule numbers compared to what we see today. Mm-hmm. So even to have an explosion, people, you know, like you and I might think back and go, "Oh man, Final Fantasy VII was the most popular game in the universe." Like, no, it wasn't. You know, right. I mean, like it was very popular and it exploded, right? But yeah, no, with the explosions going on in the background. Right. But my point is, it still didn't really explode the way that something like Call of Duty or Halo did, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, those games are blockbusters. They changed the, you know, they sold more units than they knew what to do with, SKUs, if you will. In any case, I think
Pong was American made.
Things have changed so completely different. I'm not sure that the Japanese audiences respond to something like Call of Duty the way that American audiences respond to something like Call of Duty, or Western audiences.
Well, I would have to say that's cultural, right?
It's cultural, right? But I would say that something like a Final Fantasy 13 is very culturally based, right? Because I think one of the reasons that Final Fantasy hasn't done well over here in a long time is because now video games are a lot more realistic. The medium and genre has grown up.
It's not as much melodramatic, or
and developed.
Westerners they're kind of tired of the overly melodramatic and the.
There are some folks that love that stuff,
style.
and God
sure,
bless them. And
sure.
God bless them. They love that they're
I
the niche
certainly
folks.
do.
Absolutely,
To a degree.
absolutely fantastic. But that's not mainstream gaming, and it never will be.
In America. In America.
In the West, apparently.
Apparently. Good point.
So it's not just America.
So is that what it is? Is that so
Yeah, I think
by
that's what it is.
default, so Japanese gaming in Japan is as strong as it's ever been. In the West, not so much. But since the West has more people than Japan, that means if you look at global numbers, the Western developers are kicking butt.
Well,
Is that
the
all
West,
it is?
the
Just
Western,
pure numbers,
yeah, I
basically?
mean, it is. I mean, that's video gaming is a business, right? I mean, it's about making money, and the American developers are making a lot more money than the Japanese ones.
Okay. So let's end on this question.
Okay.
What would Japanese developers have to do to get back to making inroads in the West?
If
besides Nintendo.
If you talk to someone,
Or is that a good model?
I think Nintendo is completely on its own island, as I think it always will be. And by the way, the last time somebody tried to do what Nintendo does, I think you can even be successful with that. Something like Dark Cloud or even Crash Bandicoot. You can be successful at that and still not be in the same place as Nintendo. Nintendo is still in its own world, right? So I'm going to take them out of it, and I've explained why with the branding and the association, right?
So yeah, put that
But
aside.
if you ask somebody like Kojima or Itagaki, and they're very clear about this, it's that they don't. It's ignorance. It's the fact that
I think they're too stuck in their ways.
exactly that they haven't spent a lot of time with American developers, with European developers, learning what goes into those games, or even playing those games, to really understand what that market likes. And I think you see this. This is the last point I'll make with Resident Evil more than anything else. Resident Evil comes out as a concept that you would think would be so unbelievably appealing to American audiences. It's the zombie apocalypse, it's the mansion, it's the guns, it's survival, it's blowing things up, in a place where the horror movie is still very popular here in America, right? And it is. And then all of a sudden, what has Resident Evil really done to change, besides the leap from Resident Evil 3 to Resident Evil 4? What has Resident Evil really done to change in the last 20 years?
Beyond that big leap in 4, not much.
Nothing. It's exactly the same game every single time. Big,
But-
bad, ugly Umbrella Corporation sends Wesker to go do something evil, and he screws it up, and then you have to fight your way out.
But that big mechanical change between 3 and 4
Was big.
was enough to make 4 one of the best games of all time.
Not only that, but a very good seller in America, as well as Japan.
So they changed something.
As soon as they got the shit off of GameCube. Because it sold like nothing on GameCube. Because it didn't sell anything on
So
GameCube.
they say, RE4, that was great. Let's try to do the same thing in RE5 and RE6, and now it's not so
and
much.
now it sucks, and everyone's stagnated and says this is terrible.
Okay, so I want to draw a quick correlation. When the Japanese started dominating the video game industry in the early 80s,
Yep.
Americans looked at it with disdain, or the
Yes.
American developers looked at the Japanese with disdain, much in the same way other industries did with Japanese products at the same time, like to their own peril. Automobiles.
And one of the reasons why
this,
is
that, and
because of the
other.
perception of video games in general in these countries.
I was going to say it was
where it's kid-like and toys.
I was going to
and-
say it was a perception of Japan in general.
Yeah, there you go. That's a
Because
good point.
it was not too long after Japan was decimated by World War II, and Americans were being pretty haughty and saying, "Oh, those Japanese, they can't do anything." And then they started eating our lunch, and we're like, "Oh crap, they're going to take over the world." And then they had a big crash. But regardless, that's beside the point.
Hondas are just big tin cans.
Okay, and
And then they crushed it, and now they
Right.
make Hondas in Ohio. You know,
so,
what I mean, like
so
it's-
now the American gaming developers have adapted.
Yep.
And now that now that the West in general, American developers particularly are eating Japanese developers' lunch as far as global sales.
It is.
Do the Japanese now need to learn a lesson in humility and see what the Westerners have to show?
I think that's it, and I think if you
And that's
ask,
what Kojima is saying.
and Itagaki are saying exactly, and I think that's why, even though they make games that are more geared, because Kojima makes Metal Gear, right? Metal Gear is a game about an American operative, right, doing American business overseas, right? So I mean, I think it's even the ones that make games for American audiences have a lot to learn, and I think if you play something like Skyrim versus Dragon's Dogma. a Virginia-based developer in America creating an RPG versus someone trying to create kind of a God of War clone that has Skyrim elements based in, made by Sega, it is a completely different experience and a completely different game.
Right.
And I would say one is good and one is not. You have to shake it up.
I will drink to that.
All right.
Ding.
To America. America. All right. Yeah, waving the flag. There we go. Good night, Canada. All right, so...
well, with that, we've solved all of the problems, and Japan just needs to listen to us.
Yeah,
if they want more sales.
Yeah. And with that, I think we'll close the topic. But I think there's a lot of good points made there. And I think, as much as... But why don't we finish with this? Let's celebrate some of the best games that American developers have made. What's your
decade or in general?
Let's just say in general. Let's celebrate some of the best American games. Give me your top 3 American games made of all time. And they should just be game. Even if you want to say franchise, make a franchise. Top 3.
I think Baldur's Gate is certainly one of the most influential. I think it didn't single-handedly, but it almost single-handedly resurrected the Western RPG and made it into a force.
Yes,
that's a big one.
Made by Black Isle,
right?
Which was an offshoot.
Was it, or were they bought by BioWare?
They were bought by BioWare, but they were an offshoot of Interplay. They came from Interplay.
BioWare's Canadian. But was Black Isle Canadian?
BioWare is Canadian, but Black Isle was not. Black Isle was an offshoot of Interplay.
There we go. I would also say Grand Theft Auto 3.
Rockstar Games.
That's not American, though.
New York. Rockstar. New York City.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought... Okay. We'll say that.
There's Rockstar North, which did make...
I would say Steam. If we're going to be going as far as Gabe Newell and his contribution to the industry, I would say Steam is actually more important than the Half-Life games.
It is, yes.
Which is kind of funny how that goes.
Oh, that's a great nomination.
We're getting a bunch of great things.
Both those are awesome.
Man, Portal's got to at least be a special...
I don't think I'd put that in my top 5.
I wouldn't put it in top 3, but that's a special mention.
Yeah.
Man, okay, what's the other third best Western developed game of all time?
You're skipping over one that I think you especially. In fact, you were actually going to play this as part of our music.
Oh! Well... Can I put SimCity and Civilization together?
No, you can't.
Too bad.
All right, so yeah, Civilization. I thought you were going to go with Civilization. I thought that was one of the best American developed games of all time.
Civ 4.
Those are all good ones. Those are really, really good ones. All right, let me do mine. I'm going to say Doom.
Okay.
Doom completely changed the face of gaming forever.
That's what we were talking about, all these FPSs.
Not even Wolfenstein. I know Wolfenstein came before Doom, but Doom was the reason I wanted to own a PC. Right? Doom changed everything. Number 2, I might throw in a wrench here. I don't want to say that. That would be a total cop out. No, I wouldn't put that one. I might put them as a developer.
Wouldn't say WoW.
I wouldn't say WoW. What I would say,
Warcraft.
I would say Warcraft.
Really,
Warcraft is one of my favorites of all time. But I think if I'm gonna give credit to an RTS, I would not go there. I would go Command and Conquer, Westwood Studios. Specifically Command and Conquer Red Alert is probably one of my that's a top 10 best games of all time.
That's the first game I ever played online.
And that game, it
blew my mind.
Yeah, if I'm going to go with RTS, which has been dominated by American developers ever since it was created as a genre by Westwood Studios with Dune and perfected with Warcraft. I would not say Farmville.
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds is a great game, but I wouldn't put it up there. And I'll go with
Words with Friends. Draw something.
Why are you doing all these really, really crappy?
Because they're important, damn it.
Bad shooters. I would say then I would probably go, and I don't want to stick with a genre. I already gave you a first person shooter.
Was Sonic?
I gave you an RTS.
Was Sonic and Knuckles Western developed and I didn't know it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Sonic is Japanese developed.
Someone's lying.
By Sega.
Akarki is lying to me.
No, yeah, that's fantastic.
Anyway.
And then I would say
Seventh Guest.
There's so many great kind of niche American developers that just popped out of nowhere and made great games. So why don't I just use a dark horse in that?
Ooh, Tetris.
That's fail.
I think by definition that is not West.
That's Russian
Because
invented.